What's up, everybody? I have two of Retro's most wanted. Of course, you got Eric Ng and Kevin Dennis, two good friends. Maybe more on the Kevin side. I don't know. Me and Eric are kind of more like I'm starting to like
Rival.
hate Eric more than anything. But no, I'm just kidding. But
I would
anyway,
too. You too,
but
man.
anyway, both these guys I play a lot against on Octagon. I talk to them. Probably more Kevin on the side of deck building, but definitely I play a lot with Eric and discuss a lot with his builds on Octagon. They really kind of take people by storm, I think. And I think one example of that being you could look at the recent Kenosha Grand Prix, Dragon Prix event there, where he had some interesting deck choices with Oppressive Kid Trunks, and Kevin, of course, coming in Rogue at North Kai, running the pure anti-anger future Gohan list. It's just
Yeah.
examples of just cool examples of not only meta choices but also deck building choices. And so I wanted to get both of them on here because today's topic we're talking about deck building, and I kind of have like a little rough format here I was going over with them about how we're going to kind of tackle this topic. It's so broad and hard to kind of pin to like one area. So I'm going to just bring up my phone here and bring up the little list here. So first off, like I said, Eric, Kevin, you want to introduce yourselves real quick? A little quick something about yourself, Eric. You can go first.
Well, you know my name already. I'm from Chicago. I'm one of the Midwesterners. I don't know, something interesting. I do autopsies for a living. That's something.
Oh shit!
No wonder
That's
you're
nuts.
so analytic. You're just so observant and.
I didn't know that, man. That's pretty cool. You're a mortician.
I'm a PA, so
Okay.
I work in a hospital lab. So I dissect specimens, looking for cancer.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's pretty
So,
cool, man.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's something interesting, I guess.
All right, guys. So anyway, woo, wow, this is super bright. But anyway, we had a little technical difficulty with some of the stuff going on here, and we had to switch to Google Hangouts. But for better or worse, we'll see. Oh my God, this lights are so bright in my room. But anyway, so Kevin,
What's up?
introduce yourself real quick, homie.
All right. Well, I'm Kevin. My name Kevin Dennis. Um, and I guess what I do for a living, I'm a manufacturing technician at a biotech company in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Actually, what are you drinking right there, actually, Frank? What beer is that?
I'm just drinking shot. I was out with my my folks earlier, and I had
Uh,
some Blue Moons, and then I was like, we
Oh,
had it
Blue
with
Moon.
yeah, we had it with oranges, and I didn't want to go buy oranges, so I just stopped and bought some Shock Top because
ooh, nice.
good enough of a flavor. So anyway, we're gonna hop back into it. So like I said, we're gonna start off. I have my little list of things that we're gonna kind of go over for this video, and I'm just gonna hold it up on my phone so I look. But so to start off, guys, we'll start with Eric first, then we'll go to Kevin. I think we'll just kind of rotate that format. But so I want to know about your personal deck building philosophy. Where do you start when you are deck building? Do you start with the MP, the mastery? Do you start with a certain combo? Like, where do you begin when you're starting to make a deck, Eric?
So I'm gonna answer that by saying, I start actually in all of those. If there's a combo that actually piques my interest, I'm gonna try to look at an MP that's gonna make it work. If there's a particular MP I love, I'm gonna try to pick a mastery that and a style that has the cards that can make it work the best. That's usually how I go about starting to make a deck. As far as philosophy goes, I want to say that my building style is I like to put in that secret spice, that secret sauce in the deck, so that my opponent, won't know what's coming until hopefully when it's too late. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right, I like that answer. That's a good answer.
You don't want to give away too much.
Yeah. Okay. Gotta be a little secretive. Can't give it away. Kevin, your personal deck building philosophy. Where do you begin when you're building a deck?
Normally, I get pretty into this game. So like, if there is a particular combo that I really, for some reason, get really attached to, I'll try to explore it as deeply as possible. Like one example is when Ascension was previewed, me and the guys were getting ready to drive down to Georgia Regionals, and I saw such a mastery, and I know just from playing the experience that Red doesn't really have a lot of stage game, right? And I've been talking to a couple buddies of mine around here about red energy beats and why it's not, why it's not good. And stage gain was one of the things that we harped on. And Ascension came out, and the first thing I saw that mastery that piqued my interest was that it had a stage gain engine. And right there is when, like, this is an example. I guess this is when I'm like, I want to make a red energy beats deck. And that's how and Yamcha is usually the, when you think energy beats, Yamcha is like the guy. So that's kind of how that deck started. So usually it's a combo that I kind of get attached to, and for one reason or another, it's always different. And I just try to explore that, just drive that into the ground. But a lot of what Eric was saying, I kind of feel him on that too. Where if there's a mastery I really like, I'll try to explore as many avenues with that mastery as possible. Try to see exactly where you can push that, push the kind of game plan that mastery wants to do. Same with an MP. If there's an MP I really like, I will try to explore that MP, as far as possible, and really try to play them until it gets good. So that's kind of my philosophy as a whole. Like once I choose a deck that I want, I kind of just play it and play it and play it until it becomes good. Until I either play it enough where I kind of shave off all the excess, all the fat, and try to get the most sharp and focused image of the deck together, or I play it enough where I really get an innate knowledge with it to where it's like second nature, and I can operate the deck at at max capacity, I guess. So it's kind of like a two-pronged attack. You get to know the deck a lot better from your own mind, and the deck becomes something better as you whittle it down, and really, what's good stays, what's not good gets kicked out. So
For sure. For sure.
yeah, that's kind of my philosophy. It's play until it's good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I would kind of agree. I would love to say that I wish I could be like Eric in terms of like sneaking sauce into decks. I don't really think I'm good at sneaking the sauce in, uh, per se, but I feel like I'm probably fall more on the line of Kevin here. Whereas me personally, I usually pick something I really like. For me, it was like Dr. Weedo I really like, or like in the earlier sets I really liked Empowered Mastery. I usually just will try to pick. I'm probably more MP centric myself though than Mastery. Whereas this sounded like Kevin was kind of maybe slightly more on the mastery side than the MP side, but
Yeah.
whereas Eric's kind of like, well, I just find something, and then I just throw weird stuff together and it works. That's
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like,
yeah.
Ascension Trunks, when Ascension first came out, it's an anger mastery. And I thought, okay, I want to jump in and out of combat, gain as much anger as possible. Well, that didn't work out towards the end of the set, and was Michigan qualifiers last year came around.
Mm-hmm.
I snuck the 7 Dragon Balls in there, right? Nobody
Yeah.
expected it.
Dude,
It's definitely much, man. Like everything is already working in tandem. Just it happens to everything work really well. I mean, like, how many slots did you change? Even like 8 or 9, if even that.
Exactly, and everything still fit together. Everything still flowed. So it advanced 2 victory conditions simultaneously. So, I felt like that deck was the most synergistic. Kevin knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In that sense. Yeah, and then with combative Trunks and TOP, I played that deck to death on Octagon. Everyone knew what I was running.
Yeah.
But what struck me about that deck was there was a combo I wanted to run, and that was loop Orange Destruction over and over and over. I want to abuse that card to death, and that's what the deck was about.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Just either mastery, MP, or combos. That's how I start. So
yes. Yeah, like what you're saying, synergy is really something I look for too. Like if the deck doesn't have a lot of synergy, then it's really not going to be that enjoyable.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing into my process about what deck I choose. Yeah.
For
what
sure.
cards to play.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything's got to work together. Like.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I totally feel like if I can't find the biggest reason why I'll stick with the deck is because I see a synergy that deck specifically has that others don't, and then I'll try to play on that, I think. But anyway, we've been on this one for a bit, but it's definitely a really broad question, I think. And the deck building in general, I think, in this game is very hard to have a specific answer all the time because I think it's very situational. when building. But we'll move on to the next question. So, do you look at the numbers? Are you looking at how many? Is there like a certain number of blocks you always try to hit? Is there a certain number of dead cards you try to hit? Does it depend on the deck? I guess I'll leave it to broad, and then if for the depends for like different types, we'll break into that as the second part of this question. So Eric, do you look at numbers?
You know, when I first start making a deck, I honestly don't care at all about numbers, about the ratios or whatnot. I want to fit the combos that I want to fit into a deck. Then I want to fit maybe some packages, like a drill package. What are the supporting cards for that package? I'll throw that in there. And then what are the core cards that I need to fit in the deck? You know, time, sphere. Do I want to run confros and stare downs? Like, I throw all that in there, and then I start cutting cards. Like, what can I do without? So there really is no like, I want to meet a certain number of endurance in this deck. Like, there are some decks that I run that have like less than 20 endurance, you know, something like that. I don't even count, honestly. But if it's about once I have that deck together and I want to improve that deck, then I'll start looking at the numbers. Like, is there a card I can replace that does similar job and has endurance? You know, what am I giving up by replacing it? You know, what are my tech slots? You know, that. So honestly, like, I really don't have a specific number of blocks that I want to reach, but I will say that the decks that I run tend to have very few blocks for some reason. And honestly, it has to do with my playstyle, I think. I like a more, and Kevin and I have talked about this many times about our playstyles. And my playstyle, I tend to make decks that want to do what it wants to do and not care about what the opponent does. So, you know, for instance, like my Saiyan Oppressive Trunks deck, I only run 8 blocks in that deck. But I'm entering combat on you every turn, but at the same time, I'm also rejuvenating a lot of cards, and there are going to be attacks. But at some point, at the end of the game, my opponent's going to run out of blocks, and I'm going to have all these attacks to finish you off. So, you know, that's the idea. So
I like it. I like it a lot. I like that a lot. That's a great explanation. Thank you. Kev.
So, I guess I'm a little bit like all right. So how I started is there are some parts what Eric was saying that I do like, you know, agree with, and I probably do the same things. Though endurance, it's like I just want to get 60 cards together as fast as possible because I hate, like, the most anxiety-inducing thing in this game is trying to cut cards down to 60. It's because I am. How Eric said, he said like he likes decks that don't like kind of just do what they want to do and not really give a crap what the opponent's doing. They kind of just run off their own energy and just kind of like just, you know, do that kind of thing. I'm almost polar opposite. I don't like the opponent doing anything because I think of all the I'll build a deck and like I think of all the ways I just by default think of all the ways that they can interrupt what I'm doing or try to beat me. So I don't like decks that really leave themselves open to being vulnerable. As an aggro player, you have to play with that vulnerability in mind because as long as you outdamage them, you're fine. It's like they do 40 life cards to you, but as long as you do 60 to them, it doesn't really matter how much damage you take, as long as you beat them first before they beat you.
For sure.
Me, I don't like living on the edge like that. I just want to keep you down the whole time and just, you know, control you the whole way down. Like, I want this game to work and, you know, flow in my favor. Like, we'll play by my rules. So I'm like the polar opposite of Eric. But I like to just get 60 cards in the deck as quickly as possible. I usually start with all the staples. Blocks, by default, I'll probably fill a deck with about 12 blocks just by default, like 6 physical, 6 energy, usually 6 physical or 3 energy and like 3 omni. But that it all depends on what I'm using. If I'm heavy energy beats, I'm going to go really heavy on the physical side. If I'm physical beats, I'm probably going to go really heavy still on the physical side because
Yeah.
my deck's doing what it's supposed to do. You're not going to have stages to perform anything anyway. But I'll still usually run like 3 hard energy blocks in that case if I'm building that type of deck. But yeah, jam 60 cards in there, get it going, and I'll count endurance at the very end because there's no point building a deck if you have a really low endurance count because it's just not going to survive. Like sometimes you'll make a deck and you'll be at like 26 endurance, and you'll see that when you're playing it. And once you pick up on it mid game, you're just like, I don't even want to play this deck anymore because it's not enough.
Totally agree.
So I just slam 60 cards in there, whatever. Like the first thing that comes to mind usually. Then I check the endurance, and then I go through that process that Eric was talking about where I try to look at what cards have less endurance in comparison to other cards that do a similar function. And then you kind of just weigh the pros and cons of how that choice is going to affect you and how your deck is going to work. But I kind of shoot from the hip in that sense because I just want to get into a game and really figure out what the engine is. Play as many games as you can, figure out what's good, what really makes the deck go, and then start building around that, and just see where the deck kind of takes you. And that's kind of where I go, and then that's when I start playing with numbers, block ratio, stuff like that. But endurance is really the first thing I look at.
Okay. Yeah. I'm similar in the same guard. Actually, I was about to say, we're talking about all these blocks and everything. I'm gonna back up because my face is so damn bright with all the lights. But for me personally, as a player, I like to start. Probably the first thing I put in my deck is blocks. I know it sounds weird, but it feels like no matter what I'm building, I always start with a lot of blocks. Like I always try to shoot for like a 12, 13 with time threshold. The only times I don't try to immediately put blocks in necessarily are like my sand decks. Then I might try to throw in the blocks after once I figure out what I'm doing with the deck. If I'm going to maybe want like the skip blocks or the anger blocks or not. For the most part though, I would categorize you both as opposites in the sense that Eric is much more like, okay, I'm looking to be aggressive. I'm looking to push my win con. I'm not trying to play reactive. Whereas Kevin, I feel as though, from playing both of you as players too, but Kevin's more like on the block. I'm like making sure that I'm covered, got my bases covered. I can play reactively. Would you both agree with that? Because I feel like I'm kind of probably more on the reactive. I'm like well known. I always classify myself as somebody who throws too much tech in my deck, but I always shoot for like 12 blocks until I think that I don't need them. But meta changes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You're all good, man.
I was going to say that I agree with what you said. I tend to like if I'm going to prioritize blocks versus maybe a card that's gonna kind of progress my combos or like my win con, I would tend to lean towards that and kind of cut the blocks but then I kind of tailor my deck to the point where as it gets beat down, it actually gets stronger. So that's what I tend to do in my deck. So I tend to allow myself to run less blocks because of that. So I'll give you an example with in Kid Trunks deck, I run 2 crunches. So anytime I have a crunch in my hand, if I have more than 10 cards in my discard, that's a live. Like, it can be any card I want.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
In my combative Trunks, you can knock me down to like 20, 30 cards, but I run like 22 drills in that deck. So that's a third of my deck. And by then, I'm rejuvenating the cards that I want with Attraction Drill and the Mastery. And I shuffle my deck every single time I enter, or you enter, on level 1 Trunks. So I can draw the cards that I want. So that's kind of how I look at, why I build the things that I build.
Isn't it great? That's probably why you play Possession Drill too. Like if you have like 8 cards left in the deck and you don't have what you want, you throw Possession Drill, you're probably going to hit finally what you want.
Yeah, for sure. Very different flaw. Yeah, I definitely feel like that kind of playstyle works good with a deck that has rejuve, for sure.
Yep.
And shuffling, and deck shuffling. Okay.
To hop off what you were saying, Eric, like it's almost like similar, like how you just explain how like you as the game gets longer, your deck gets stronger. It's almost like we're both kind of the same way, but again, still a polar opposites. Like for me, example I'll use is Yamcha, right? If you put like early game, like the point of the deck is get the 2, sit there, coast a while, get your kill turn set up, and then go in and just kill them, right? Preventable damage, many actions, many attacks, hit large attacks, banish damage, the whole 9 yards. But like Yamcha, you don't want to get that too early because then you have nothing in your discard pile. Like if I'm getting beat down early, that's fine because you're just putting more of the resources I need in my discard pile. It's kind of like how the mech game works too. Like as the game gets longer, once they get stuff in the discard pile, they start filtering their cards, generating more effects, and then as you die, they're just kind of staying even.
For sure.
So like I need to take damage in Yamcha in order to start doing my things, right? Tag Goku is kind of the same thing. Like what? I mean, like if I don't have a discard, if I don't have allies in my discard pile, I'm not really doing much once I get waiting drill in play. But there are a bunch of times where people will throw a choke, like a 6/7 life card choke, and I'm like, oh shit, that kind of sucks. But still, like say now I can post for Ox King, and I'm going to repeat, and 3 allies happen to be in the top 4.
For sure.
And as the game gets later, I keep putting those allies back in. They pop out and damage a little more frequently. So like it makes the mill with waiting drill like that much more potent, like late game.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
No, it's all good. It's interesting though, because like with both of you, this will tie into the second part of the question. Does it depend on the deck type? And obviously, from what I'm hearing, maybe for Eric, he generally builds a deck around being able to take damage, whereas Kevin is acknowledging that like maybe for some of the decks he's playing, well, even it seems like all the ones he's mentioned, taking damage isn't actually as bad as you think. So maybe for me, I don't really play a lot of decks that play power recursion, so I don't want to get hit. And
that's probably why you run more blocks, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too, man. Like, and you're probably when you say that, you're probably thinking of black decks, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
yeah. I don't play too much black these days, but I got a black cell that like every time BST draining attacks hit the disco pile, I'm like they're gone forever.
Yeah.
You feel so. And now that absorption drill is styled only, it means like they're definitely gone forever.
Yeah.
So that's what sucks.
Yeah. So with that, we'll hop into control here as like kind of the different types. We'll start with the types of decks. Do you think control has to run more blocks than aggro?
I think more blocks than aggro. I think just mostly usually by nature you're gonna have to run more blocks because you need to be able to slow down people's early games, and those blocks usually probably have to have limiting effects, like anti-anger or any kind of board hate in blocks is really strong. But I mean, it is kind of a broad question because you can. It depends how they want to attack the control. Like, Eric, let me get your thoughts. Because the more I think about it, I'm like, maybe they just do inherently run more blocks. So.
Yeah. I honestly, if you're running control, like you have to run more blocks. I feel like because you're gonna. I mean, control decks have a lot of landing cards like setups and drills, right? Like,
yeah.
No, black is you've got BST, you've got black power up, you've got what's the one that shuffles?
Declaration.
You've got smoothness drill. You just have so much, so many dead cards, and unless you're running an MP that can, cycle those cards out of your hand, filter them out, and then make you draw or discard to draw a card, whatever, then you're screwed if you draw a dead hand. And it's that much more hurtful if in a black deck. I feel like because like you said earlier, you lose those non-styled cards forever once they hit the discard.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I'm trying to look at the other parts. Do you think there's maybe perhaps a certain MP that that you run as far as numbers go that you always We'll go back to the numbers and get away from blocks. Like, for example, people are talking about the new Broly level 2 a lot and how you're going to need to really play with your numbers if you want to be able to make sure that you get the reveal off while you want it. Because his level 2, of course, says, you reveal 2 attacks from your hand, and then you can go grab a setup or drill. Do you think there are certain MPs maybe that they need to have certain numbers of types of cards in their deck to be to work? We'll start with Kevin again here.
Broly, yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the cooler things to kind of look into for this new set. How new Broly decks are going to balance that planning card attack card ratios. Um, Before I jump to me, like I think blue and red are really good because they can have cards like Control Blast or Arm Blast that act as blocks, but they're also attacks.
Yep,
That's and blue, and because of all the set of attacks as well in blue as well. Um, as far as like numbers related to an MP, like let's just start with Broly. Old Broly, you have to run a lot of style physical attacks because of Broly Face Crusher. So you really, same Broly decks get a lot of hate, and people who probably let them get a lot of hate because Caveman, Mindless, stuff like that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
not my preferred deck, but you really need to. It's hard being a physical aggro because you really need to sacrifice a lot of deck building concepts because you have to just slam your deck full of style attacks. So stuff like Face Crusher and Rad can draw into more and more actions.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, you don't get to you don't get to power up 3 life cards a turn, versus stages. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Eric. Oh, sorry.
No. We'll go back and forth because there are tons of MPs that work off numbers. So Eric, how about you throw one out?
Yeah. Eric.
Work off numbers, like in terms of like the attacks and blocks.
Deck building space for sure. Like you have to devote so much space generally to one slot.
Like block. I think Frank means like anything: blocks, allies, drills.
I'll start. This morning I was looking at Bojack, trying to build a deck around Bojack, right? And I look at the named cards that he has. He's got 1 ally. He's got the 3 non-styled named setups. And then you've got to run the malicious intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 7 slots there that are pretty much dead, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a limiting factor for Bojack. You've already starting off with like 7 dead cards right there. If you want to run Bojack, I mean, you don't have to run his 3 setups, but I feel like it's kind of needed for him. So
yeah. I would. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kev.
No, go ahead, Frank. You go ahead, man.
Oh, I was gonna say I throw Bojack almost in the same vein as Frieza FanZ level 1. You have to run name.
Oh my God!
You have to run. Oh yeah. See, I stole this. You have to run so many named cards for him, and and what sucks is that you also have to peel them out of your deck. So whether or not they're good or not, they're going out of your deck. And if they're bad, then that means you have to run bad cards to put back in your deck. So. Kev, I don't know if you got. Can you think of some other stuff other than Frieza?
I got a great one. So, this concept or this way to build the deck, actually, I get this from Thomas Schiebel. He built, and I'm talking about Brohan. So you have Vengeance level 1 Gohan with Awakening 2, obviously the Brohan combo, the Brohan, marriage made in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, decks like if you're an ally deck, once you're him, like you want to get the 2 immediately because it's the ultimate camp level. Like you get knocked down, okay, you get allies in play, you go back up. If you get knocked up, okay, I'm just gonna go right back down to where I can then go back up.
Yeah.
It's a really you're between a rock and a hard place. Like there's not much you can do, except clear the allies and de-level. But Tommy built his deck in a way where he wants to get to level 2 first, like literally in the first combat, he wants to be there. So what does he do? Packs the deck with like 15 fucking allies. Sorry, 15 freaking allies, man. Like you're like ratio-wise, you're probably gonna draw 2 allies turn 1. Not probably. I don't know what the math works out, but
there's a good chance. I mean, if 1 of 4 cards in your deck are an ally.
Yeah, if you're tagged, you're definitely starting the game on level 2. And when you build a deck like that, you end up with a lot of dead cards. I mean, Eric, you have 22 drills and trunks, a lot of dead cards. Like in my Tag Goku deck, I have 10 allies or 9 allies that I can bring allies to my hand, but I can't get them out of my hand. Gohan, anything is a dead card on that level 2. So you pack the deck full of allies to advance your win con, get to level 2, and then once you're on 2, if you draw allies, who cares? You're gonna get.
Yeah, you mean a live card on 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, you said dead card on two. Yeah, live card on two. Because hand
Yeah,
filter, and I think that kind of plays into the whole. It depends on the deck too. Is like restored Gohan back in the day, um, Resolute Mastery to a lower extent. Any deck that has hand filtering can really get away, I think, with those higher ratios of
yeah.
dead
Mhm.
cards.
Yep.
Of course, the hardest ones being able to get rid of are non-stop cards. So that's the
Mhm.
most depends on the deck, but
There is one more, and it's really no other mastery kind of has you deal with this. Where the protective, like I said, no other deck is going to make you actually look at your ratios between physical combat and energy combat.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So when you're low on one end, you can definitely tell when you're playing through deck. It's like you just never have your block. So for example, back in the set three meta, protective Gaku was a big physical beatdown deck because you have all these plus fives in face crunch, lunge. What else is freaking out there? What stretch kick, all these plus fives. So he's an F at full. I think in F in the top in like 8, 9, and 10 stages above zero. He's hammering down these physical attacks. But what sucked about that deck is that you ran so many physical combats, but physical combats didn't help you against D-Burst.
Oh
You
yeah,
play Black deck and you have a bunch of physical attacks in your hand. They throw D-Burst. You need what you need is energy combat. You don't have it, and then you just lose. It was one of the I played original, and my first opponent was actually Protective Gaku, and I had D-Burst, and I'm like, yeah, he's got a handful of physical combats. He's never blocking this D-Burst ever.
yeah. Yep.
No energy combat.
That is a great point. That is one that I think definitely glossed over my mind for a moment there. Because I used to love playing protective, but that was definitely
Mm-hmm.
that was a limiting factor. I'll just the final bit of this question here. It's been going on for a bit on this one, but when you see decks that have to dedicate deck space almost every time, whether it's the mastery or it's the MP, does that kind of deter you from playing them?
Eric, I'll let you take this. You can go first.
Yes, actually, I'm going to go right back to Bojack. Like, I am struggling to think about, what mastery I want to build him in. The 7 name cards or the 7 dead cards that I have to kind of throw in there already kind of limits me. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that kind of any MP or that at the moment. And I honestly don't explore too many MPs. I have to really like somebody to kind of even
Feel
start building around it. So like Trunks is like one of my favorite MPs to build. So I build them in every single style to see what works and kind of just play around with it. Like Kid Trunks is one that I fell in love with. Like Android 13 was one that I fell in love with. So I haven't really explored many other MPs, so I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
Um,
Fair enough, I guess.
so um, there are so no, I mean Eric touch on a couple of them. Bojack is one. Uh, when when it comes to for me making unleash decks, unless the deck is gonna be really really strong, like if I'm just making like a casual or like a fun to play unleash deck, I hate the fact that you need to plug. Uh, when you run Unleash, you have to plug like 8 cards. 8 cards completely dedicated to Unleash. You need to run three Unleashed. Well, not really 8 cards, more like 6 or 7. Like if you're running 3 Unleashed, you have
Yeah, minimum.
3 or 4 attached cards. Sometimes 5. It's a really big package, and like sometimes I just don't feel like dealing with that.
Yeah.
Tag Cell was a deck that I knew would be good, but I never had the motivation to put the time into it because I think we all could have said this earlier. Deck building is a process, and like for us to really want to go through that arduous process, you really need to be excited and optimistic about what's going to be the result on the other end. So if you don't immediately love the deck you're building very early, it's usually not going to be much fun. Like why pursue it? But frig, what was I just saying? Lost my train of thought.
It's all good.
Um,
You're just talking about. I think just to kind of pick up from that.
Yeah,
I think maybe to
yeah,
put words in both of your mouths. But the way I look at it is that it takes away from the creative parts of deck
yeah,
building.
yeah, yeah.
When you have to, and don't get me wrong, it's that's the thing about deck building though is like, do I run Unleashed knowing that it's got to take these spots in my deck? Do I run Allies knowing that I have to have spots for a searcher if my MP
Mhm.
doesn't have a searcher? And I think those are like the critical decisions in deck building that we all have to kind of make. And whether or not putting yourself in the pigeonhole of having to make that decision at all, that says a lot about the deck builder. So. Um,
I remember my thought now. I remember where I was. Um, that like that hurdle. It's like when you look at a deck, you're like, oh, do I really want to deal with this heavy like kind of count? So when I was building Tag Cell, I never really wanted to build it or like put the work into it because when you build it, like those tag decks, Eric, you have a Tag Bobbity deck that you slung around a little bit. Like those decks, all the cool blue has a lot of cool setups and a lot of cool drills that work with the mill archetype that you just kind of want to shove in because like it just you have different engines. You have training engines. You have your ally engine. Then you have your blue waiting drill engine. Then you have your decaf physical attack engine. It's like how much of it do you include? How much of it do you not include? Um, when OPA was limit 3, I was only running one tag cell because I had to find room for all this
yeah,
crap.
for sure.
It was a deck that I finally fell in love with when I put the time into it. Cell is just one of the most fun MPs in the game. Like just no matter what you put him in, he's great. But it's just having to get through all that slog, all that mud just to get there. Like,
That's tough.
yeah. It's you have to really know that you're gonna love the deck almost before you start. So, um, but yeah, when you're working through like the worst thing you want for a deck to feel is clunky. It's the worst. Clunky
Right.
isn't good to run. So
For sure. Alrighty. Yikes, I'm gonna die here. So we're gonna move on to the next question here. And this could be a pretty quick one. What decks do you prefer to build? We'll just say what kind of decks is.
Like you're
We'll go with
like,
Eric first. Sorry.
what categories are, like you're talking
Um,
about like
um,
control,
do
anger,
you
like
see a how about do you see a theme in the decks that you build?
um
Like you think it's a preference? Like is it like do you like anger decks? Do you like ball decks? Do you like Goku decks? Do you like really combo
I would
decks?
say that I generally like decks that have more than one win con. I generally gravitate towards that. I mean, I don't like to not have a plan B. You know, especially if I'm a player that likes to advance my whatever I want to do. I don't care about what you're doing, but I
Hey
just want to
man,
do what I want to do.
if you're gonna bust, you always want a plan B.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right? That's great.
Too real.
nice talk. All right. Nice.
Man,
That was a nice one. That was a nice
thank you, thank you. I've had too many stories, but
one.
okay, well, cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. And I've definitely noticed it playing you. So, Kevin,
Yeah.
what about you? What kind of decks do you prefer to build?
Definitely control. Like if you had a spectrum, here's aggro, here's control, and here's mid range. If control's here and mid range is here, I'm a little like right here. Um, I'm not hard control, but anything that allows you to like limit the opponent's options. So um, I feel like every time I freaking load a deck on Octagon, it's always a freaking ally deck. Like I feel like I'm like the ally guy. Like every time I load it, I'm like I playing an ally deck again. Like I love ally. This like I said, I like decks that limit what the opponent can do. So the hero allies do that almost like no other archetype in this game. You have a hero ally almost for every imaginable situation you can have in a game. Oolong shuts off balls. Relax, Profile Challenge, VTP when it was out, Yajiro Slumber shuts it all off. You have fast anger game like Retribution or Android 13's defense, weighted clothing, Gohan shuts it off. Roshi, want to search your deck? Combative decks, freaking adaptive unleash decks that are going to be on the horizon, like freaking Roshi shuts it all down. They limit your options, and like I mentioned earlier, it gives me anxiety when the opponent is able to do what they want to do, because I just don't want to see them advance their win con, because I kind of want to. If the control of mid-range deck doesn't have a reactive capability or reactive capacity, I'm not usually going to be into it. Like, for example, like Yamcha is not a control MP. He's not. But he's an aggro MP, but what the attacks you run in him with that you can abuse are control type cards, like Red Tandem Blast for Combined Blast, Orange Sleeping Blast in Orange Fierce Attack in Orange, Push that and preventable damage.
Yeah.
Those cards limit what the opponent can do to you. Like if you can't play Earth 7, if you can't play Blinding Time, Sphere, Unleashed, because you can't play non-style cards, you can't even play balls or allies either. Only what's in your hand. It's mono. At that point, then I'm comfortable. If I know you can't do something, then I can start slinging cards. I can start doing my thing. I tend not to just get out there until I know the conditions are kind of just right. Like I'm just waiting for the right moment for where I can actually start unraveling my game plan until I know that yours is set in stone and not moving anywhere. So I like sure things. I like to be comfortable, and the decks I play tend to help me get to that state of being comfortable.
Right on.
I'm polar opposite.
Yeah, no, I
know.
It's funny. Again, I'm gonna just summarize you both. I'll put Eric on the more the aggressive. Like I'll put Kevin's own words. He puts himself between mid range and control, whereas I put Eric more in like the. I've seen Eric play even like the Red Ascension Trunks with balls and setups is more mid range even because that deck can enter and go off with a handful of attacks. So I'll put Eric kind of more in like I'd put Eric in maybe the aggressive mid range, whereas I myself would put myself in the mid range. Like I kind of take. I kind of take elements. I like personally playing decks that I know I can calculate out what they're going to do, and I can calculate trades. And by that I mean like one reason I like Wheelo is because I can go in, I can count. Oh, I'm going to do this much damage for sure, because I'm going to throw unpreventable this, mill this, or I like decks that I'm like, okay, I'm going to gain this much anger because this, and I have a counter to this. So I know that this is like if I can play a deck that when I go into a combat, I can. It's in the same vein as Kevin likes decks that he can calculate out what they're going to be doing, like they're sure. I like that a lot when I deck build, and I'm definitely a mid-range player. I don't generally like pure beats aggro, and I don't like control because control's too slow and I dead drop too much. So that is.
He's got to live with it.
Yeah, I mean that's me. Okay, cool. Well, I like the answers you guys gave me for that one. They're very, very good. So the two final questions here. We'll start with Eric. What do you think you could work on in your deck building?
I think I should work on experimenting with MPs that maybe I don't at first fall in love with, so that I can kind of maybe expand my playstyle. So recently I've actually experimented with Protective Brohan, with like Kevin Dennis knows. And it's actually affected my playstyle. And it actually affected my playstyle this past tournament. I was able to slow play a lot of people on Saiyan, waiting for my opponent to beat me down before I even acted. Whereas the old me would be like, I don't care. I'm gonna blow my hand on you, and I'll just sit there and take a beating. Nope, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hold this physical attack in my hand so I can skip you. Gain some stages so I can play more energy attacks to skip you again, and gain anger at the same time without you lowering me. So I think I should experiment with the control, where Kevin Dennis is, that range of play style, so that I can know both
becoming
sides.
Becoming Kevin Dennis.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, it's not that you're becoming me. I think it just comes down to just managing tempo better, I guess. And blue is really about tempo denial. Like deterrent is a huge tempo denial. Head knock is a huge tempo denial. Neck beam tempo denial. I mean, it's all anti-anger, anti-leveling in the same wheelhouse, but it's all a form of denial of tempo. Like when you're talking about holding a physical attack and waiting so you can wait, get the skip, get stages, and then something else. You're kind of just taking advantage in windows where you can shift that tempo back to your end. But I feel like what I can improve in is definitely I can get very tunnel vision with builds if anyone's ever talked to me about, especially like Tag Goku, if anyone's ever talked to me about it, I'm very stubborn about what that deck is supposed to do. I mean, I've played tons of games of it, so like, I mean, there's good reason for that. But like, I can definitely be a little more open to new ideas. Like, for example, I'll use Dave Metcalf as an example. Like he's a guy who played Ascension Trunks for a long time. I feel like I probably would have been in the same shoes if that was like a deck that I really attached myself to. I don't know if I would have ever thought to throw balls in there because I would have just seen it as like a straight narrow path. I'm like I said, like play it till it's good. Like I'm very stubborn like that. So I think I can be I should be more open to experimenting and to new ideas and different deck slots and different deck choices. Because like I mean, Eric, you threw 7 balls in a deck that was proven and true to be solid and good, and it just became even better or just even more versatile than the original deck could have ever been. So, so that when you did that, that actually like that deck just blew me away, man. Like you just throwing 7 balls in there is really like I need to look at my decks and like just like turn them upside down, outside the box, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely need to be more open to ideas in the decks that I put a lot of time into. You never know. You never know. Ideas that you never even thought of. You're only one mind. The more minds you kind of include into this pool, the more probability is only going to go up that the deck, everything's going to get better.
You don't want to take the surprise factor away though. So I think that's the advantage you have. Kevin Dennis is running. He's surprising us.
He's getting his pizza or something. Well, since Kevin's gone. But yeah, I'll say this. In terms of deck building impact, Eric, like just throwing, it's just hilarious because we're talking about the 7 balls. Me and Kevin are talking about the 7 balls that you threw. And that alone, that sparked interest in multiple groups I talked to about throwing balls in decks.
In a lot of decks.
In a lot of decks. Yamcha, Majin Vegeta. People talked about Broly, Triple Ball, Vic, stuff like that. So it's just... it's when I think we're able to make those really kind of crazy builds like that really eye-open people. I think that's what's really cool, and that's something I appreciate about. That's something I appreciate about both of you too, especially in this case, Eric, is when people build stuff that is so like off the wall and not unexpected. Like that is the dream I have, that I could have that kind of impact. But to steal the spotlight here, one thing I think I could work on more is be less afraid of running setups and drills in my decks. I hate dead drawing, so that as a player for it, I never like having more than like 15 dead cards in my deck. So I think being more open to that as a deck builder for a lot of my decks could maybe go away. And I think maybe being more willing to splash powerful cards with no endurance in my deck would be fun. But I'm an endurance whore, so.
You are or not?
I am. I love endurance.
Yeah, yeah, no, you are. You and Shane are cut from the same cloth, man.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get to the final question here, and this is just a little fun one. I know I gave you guys this one. Hopefully, maybe you thought of something. But what is a deck building win or fail? Something that maybe worked out that you put on that on paper looked like crap, and then it worked, or maybe something that looked really good on paper and then it just kind of fell really flat. Do you have any? I'll let Eric start with this one.
I'm going to defer to Kevin first because I'm going to have to think about this question.
all right, Kevin.
I have a good one, but I want to refrain from talking about Tag Goku again. So okay, all right, I got a great one. All right, so the motivation behind this deck find. I would like every deck choice needs a motivation. The motivation behind this was to when Combative first came out. I'm like, Combative, you're good. Orange Swerve, you're busted. How do I break that? All right, Swerve, and I could tell that Checkup Drill was going to be very, very key to Combative. So I wanted to make a deck where Swerve and Checkup were never out of reach. So I just went right over the Cooler. Because Rebirth is always going to put those cards back in your deck, the style cards back in your deck. Level 3 is going to be able to put Even Time or Checkup Drill back in your deck without having to run Orange or Rage Bash. And what happened with that deck is that by no intention of mine at all, I stumbled upon like this insane physical wall of a deck. So what you would do is once you get shopping drone play, that way even mischievous decks. And Frank, I played you downstairs in Mecker's basement with this deck. We had that insane combative cooler versus this just
Yeah.
war match.
Oh yeah.
Once you get shopping drone play, they can't interrupt this combo. So whenever you enter, you use Nova, you blow up your own checkup drill, and then tutor checkup drill with the mastery to get you whatever block you need. And because a rebirth makes sure that Swerve is never going to stay in the banish zone, you retrieve 2 at a time, and then once it's in your deck, you can tutor immediately with checkup because it doesn't matter where in the deck it is, it just as long as it's in there. You just set up this like continuous, not infinite, but like self-perpetuating cycle of blocks, physical blocks primarily, because Nova is your own checkup drill engine. Mm-hmm. So that was probably one of the coolest deck building things I came across. It was a super cool deck that I never thought would really be anything. No, it was still a decent deck, but it's really good, like physical wall engine, like what I just said, Nova for checkup drill, and then combative back in play was just something I never thought at, not something you pick up at face value.
For sure, for sure.
And for a deck building fail, I once wanted to build a surprise attack Andrew 13 deck, Mischievous. I wanted to get to level 3 and just kind of spam that 3, but I never made the connection that if you play surprise attack in 13, you have to run 13's defense. And so if you play surprise attack, they're just going to banish 2 of them out of your freaking deck. So I played like 2 games of that, and the second they did that to me, I was like, this deck's trash. Done in the trash game.
Man.
Yeah. Probably one of the worst decks ever made.
Oof.
So
that's nice. I like those. They're good. Those are surprise attack 13. Oh my god, that's funny. Eric, what do you got for me, man? You got anything?
So, for the fail, I have one that I honestly just played maybe once or twice in Octagon. But it's with Goten, and I looked at Goten. I'm like, he fits in orange, because he can tutor drills every single level. Like maybe what's a drill that I can abuse? What's a strong drill that I can abuse over and over again? That I'll never lose. Maybe black smoothness drill, or what's the other one? Absorption drill. Well, I made a deck with like that, and it just for some reason it just didn't work. I don't know why, and I felt clunky, so I kind of just threw it in the trash. Maybe you guys can help me answer that question. Why then? Maybe you've tried it.
I tried Black Goten, and it's just for one reason or another, it just hasn't worked for people.
I feel like it's kind of a trap, but I have some ideas for that deck, this set.
Okay. All right.
It'll come out. You'll see it.
All right.
It'll definitely be one of the deck list videos I drop everybody, but we'll see.
All right. We're looking forward to that. Well,
what about?
I guess a win. I'm gonna go back to one of the 3 decks that I played that kind of led me to success, and that's the one. Well, actually, this one's actually not a success because Kevin Dennis stopped it, but that's because it was telegraphed. So combative Trunks. I originally wanted to make a deck that, a mill deck. I actually played somebody. I think it was the year before, the year that I made TOP, the 2016. I think I played somebody who actually ran combative Trunks, and it was mill that. With destruction, like recurring destruction. When Attraction Drill came out, I was like, all right, I'm going to try this. Maybe there's a couple more drills I can fit in there. A couple. And I thought this deck was going to fail because I'm like, the more drills I add, I'm going to draw dead right away. There's 22 drills in this deck. This is not going to work. Well, I played 5-10 games, on Octagon, and I get beat down, but I'm down 20-30 cards against the Broly, and I pull out a win, so it actually just works. So I don't know. That's when I decided, this is what I one of my considerations for TOP, and I ended up choosing that deck, but we all know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll attribute that to bad matchup and good picking on Kevin's part. So I think those both were killer decks for sure.
There was okay. So it was a hunch of mine. I'll call it a hunch that you were gonna run like Battle Trunks. But there was another reason why I did pick the deck. Because it was gonna be the whole tournament was gonna be all one-off matches, and I kind of wanted a deck that can just steal games. And that deck, if that deck draws fire early, it can beat anything. On any given day, it can beat anything. That's you can slightly not I'm actually open to changing that, but like I said, I wanted something that can steal games, and that deck was able to do that.
For sure, that's cool. Yeah, it's fun to listen to you, because again, I think all three of us have had a lot of interaction together, not only as players but deck builders, and all of us have probably bounced ideas off each other, because we play each other a lot of Nocteon. Eric, I see at the events I go to in the Midwest. Kevin, I've gone out to the East Coast, and I've seen him in a few events in the Midwest. So, it's been always fun to bounce deck ideas off of you guys. Ooh, excuse me. I'm just gonna hijack here, but. As far as deck wins, I think my biggest deck building win would have to be either Protective Wheelo or Mischievous Wheelo. Like, both of those kind of just worked really well for me. Wheelo as an MP in general has worked really well for me. In the case of Protective, I made it the day before Chicago Regional with Mike Teagues, and I went 6-2 the next day, and that was pretty cool. And then Mischievous Wheelo just being so silly. I saw that mastery and I played it in fusion format because I'm like, oh, Wheelo, MPPV, Mill, Dragon's Victory, because why not? Wheelo level 1 sets you to 3 anger, and if somebody plays an anger deck on me, I mastery to get myself to 4 anger, and then I just Dragon's Victory them, or I can Mistress Mastery their anger, and then just from there I translated it to Scorzy, from Scorzy Retro Z to Panini, and I think both those worked out really well for me, so those would be my wins. As far as fails, oh my god, Ascension Yamcha, my biggest fail.
Yeah.
Smacking rescue every fucking time I mastery is pretty fun. Smacking Unleash.
It is the worst, man.
Oh god, you want to talk about feels bad moments? Yeah, Ascension, anything like Ascension I've built with more than 8 freestyle cards, with more than 6 freestyle cards is just too many in that mastery for me. It fails. And then anything rampaging just fucking is a dumpster fire that I build.
I think Eric, when we actually played at was it Michigan? We played at top 8.
I played your Ascension Yamcha, right?
Yeah. I think. I didn't have anything to show at the time that may or may not have been in your hand. It was in your hand. I didn't have anything, but I think at one point in that game that my mastery did fail me, and I think that definitely played a big part. It definitely played a big part a couple times. There's nothing worse. That's why I made Twin Beams the way I did. I got sick of it, dude. I got sick of that mastery freaking failing me. I'm like, fuck it, no, I'm making a cancel it.
Frank, this past weekend, I think of the 2 matches we played, you hit a non-styled card 5 times out of the whatever.
It was bad. Yeah. I made the choice deck building to put a 3rd Goten's defensive stance because I was like, okay, I just don't want to die to physical beats, and then I smacked Goten's defensive stance probably 7, or probably maybe not 6, but probably at least 5 times that day with my mastery, probably 6 or 7 total. It was just oh dude,
brutal.
Man, hitting my Gohan ally, I hit him 4 times with mastery. It was bad.
It is the mastery for masochists, man. If you play that mastery, you're gonna have times where you're just mastery. I'm never playing this mastery again. And then times it'll hit a disregard, and you're just like, yes.
You're like, yoy. Oh man, yeah. All right, well, I think this is a good way to end it. We've been talking for a bit here, and I had a lot of fun, guys. I think we might just talk a little bit longer here to each other, but really, I think this was a great video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I might try to get some more people on, try to break down their deck building styles. We'll see. Maybe this will become a format that I come back to. But I really enjoyed this. I want to thank Eric and Kevin both. Thank you guys.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm gonna head out. Again, like and subscribe the content. Get ready for the content wars. You know, got Mike Teague's gunning for me. So anyway, take it easy, guys.
You too.